Hi guys, my name is Mike and thanks for coming to this CSS video. We're going to talk about the box model concept. So what's the box? Well, each HTML element can be considered to be at the center of a box, and we can create a box around it. And each box can have some padding, it can have a border, it can have a margin. It doesn't have to have any of these three, and you can select each one as required. You can have a padding without the other two, a border without the other two, and so on. Okay. So 0 is the default on all of these, and we have to add padding, borders, margins within our CSS as we require. So here's first example. On the left hand side you can see I've created a paragraph tag with an ID of text. And the paragraph just says this is an HTML element, and on the right hand side you can see that sentence, and I've put a little orange hash thing around it just to show you that's the center of the box. Okay, and then what we can do is add some padding, and on the left hand side you can see some CSS. I've targeted the ID text with the hashtag text and then curly brackets, and padding I've added 2 figures here, both in pixels, first one 30 and the second one 10. What do these mean? Well, the 30 is padding top and bottom, and the second one means padding, in this instance 10 pixels, both left and right. And this is what is creating the box of the box model. But the padding is invisible on the screen, and you can't color padding. Okay, but what you can do is color a border. So the border goes outside of the padding. So don't forget that, padding first, then the border. And on the left hand side you can see my CSS. I've now added a line border, 5 pixels, solid red. And funnily enough, on the sort of right hand side you can see this big red border, 5 pixels wide, around the padding, and so on. So HTML element at the center, then the padding, then the border. Okay, the padding is always invisible, but you can color in the border. However, what you can also do is then add a margin. Okay, and the margin is also invisible, just like the padding. You can't color it in, so it produces white space on your screen around the border, which is nice. On the left hand side within the CSS I've added a line called margin 10px. So what? Well, because it's just one value now, not 2, it's added 10 pixel margin all the way around, top left, bottom right, to the box model. So just make it a little bit simpler, if you like. The elements at the beginning, right at the center, and then padding is around that. Then we can add a border as required, and then a margin as well. So that's the box model. So let's do some coding and let's have a look live. Okay, so on the left hand side, as usual, I've got my text editor. I'm using Text Wrangler. It's pretty basic, so we can see the mistakes as I type. And on the right hand side I've got the box model text showing in my browser, and I'll just hide those little icon-y things there. Okay, so because this is the only HTML I'm going to be using in this instance, I am allowing myself to use internal style sheets using the style opening and closing tags, which are within the head opening and the head closing tag. Okay, so around or the box model, the text you see on the screen is at the center of the box. So I'm going to add some padding, and I need to select the H1 thing first, don't I? Which is amusing to miss that out, otherwise nothing would work. Padding, colon, and let's give it 100 pixels, top and bottom, and let's go 100 pixels By the way, you don't need that comma that I wrote, so it's 100 pixels, 100 pixels. So I'm going to hit save there. And what are we expecting to see? Well, I'm expecting that this box model text on the browser is going to come down the screen 100 pixels and then to the right by 100 pixels. So I'm just making sure I've saved the CSS. I'm going to click refresh on the browser, and there it is. It's gone down 100 pixels and gone to the right 100 pixels. If I want it further off to the right hand side, I can change the I'm changing this text here to the sort of left and right padding 150. I'm going to hit save, I'm going to hit refresh, and what I'm going to have to do now, because the browser is too small, I'm going to have to widen it, because what it's saying is, hey, you want all that padding on the right on the right as well. I can't do that, so it's shifting the text down. So I'll just get rid of the 150 left and right and go just 50, and click refresh and see what. There you go. So the padding is now 50 left and right, and 100 up and down. So thinking back to what I said when I had the slide pack up, the box model consists of three things. It's padding, border, margin. Okay, so the next thing to do is add a border. Okay, that's just border, then colon, and then semicolon. And let's give this, I don't know, 20 pixels solid. Let's go green. Okay, so what are we expecting? We're expecting a border. It's going to be 20 pixels wide. It's going to be solid, i.e. there's no funny patterns, and it's going to be color green. So I'm going to hit save, come over to my browser, click refresh, and we've got this big border now. What I'm going to do is just come down on the padding. Whoops, let's go 20 and 20, okay. So let's just bring everything down so it fits on the screen on the right hand side. So there we go, 20 and 20 on the padding, and it's a 20 green border. Now, I know this isn't a lesson in borders, but we've gone solid, but what you can do is go for some fancy ones. Let's go dotted, and then we've got big dots if we want to bring the dot size down. Let's go 3 and 3 pixels, and there's lots of little dots there. Let's go 8 pixels, and there'll be fewer bigger dots, and so on. So you can play around with that. Not only is there dotted, but dashed as well, and there's a dash one. I mean, this is all pretty old-fashioned stuff, and you know, in the good old days of the early internet, people used to have websites with all this sort of gopping sort of stuff on it. Anyway, so away from borders, let's just go solid again, and let's go blue, because somehow I don't like green. So there we go. So going back to the slide pack, the text, or the sort of the box model, had the HTML element at the center. We can add padding if we want. We can add a border if we want, and then also what we can do is add a margin. And funnily enough, we just type margin, and it's a colon and then a semicolon, and within those two we can provide, let's go 20 pixels. And in this instance, you can go wider or smaller if you like. Okay, so that's that. I've hit save. Coming over to the browser, I'm clicking refresh and see what happens. Oh, so you can see it jumped to the right and slightly down. Let's just go margin 40 and make it jump again. So here we go, clicking refresh now, and you can see it jumped down and to the right. So that's the margin being added. Now, don't forget, what I did mention earlier on in the slide pack is that the padding and the margin are invisible. Okay, so it's transparent or just white. It's you just can't see it. The only thing that you can colour is the border, and I'm just going to go border purple because I can, and hit refresh and it's gone purple. So that's the box model. Okay, so padding, border, margin, you can use all three, or you can use one or two as required, or you don't have to use any of them. So I'm going to go back to my slide pack, and let's just let's round up. So the learning objectives was to understand the box model concept. I think we've done that. At the center is the HTML element. We can add padding, we can add a border, we can add a margin. The padding and the border are transparent. The border we can color in and sort of give it dots, dashes, or whatever you want. And yes, and that's it. That's the box model concept. Thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next video.